They're getting mad because I said in a 60-second short that I actually liked Arcane, but I didn't really like any of the main characters in Arcane, because they're bad people for the most part. They're not good. They're thieves and corrupt politicians and vandals and thugs, and like they're mostly not very good guys in the show. And I'm getting a set of reactions that are really fascinating to me. One is a version where people are not actually, they're like sort of bypassing what I'm actually saying, and they're just assuming that what I mean is that they're poorly written characters, which is not what I said. I said they're morally bad people, not the same thing. And then also the one that's been really interesting to me, in fact, I've seen a bunch of comments on YouTube for that, but I actually also just saw a comment on, I don't know if I can pull it back up, on Odyssey, which we don't talk about very often, but we do have all of our Out of Frame episodes on Odyssey. But a guy basically came in and was like, you're an idiot because the world is pain and everyone is evil in the world. And so the show is just reflecting reality. And I like that about the show, because the world is filled with terrible people. And I was like,
this person sounds fun.
That's not a fun way to live. I don't recommend that as your defining worldview.
At parties. I bet they get invited to a lot of parties.
I've seen a decent amount of this on YouTube as well so far today. Like we only put it out today, so I'm like sort of getting the immediate flood of comments and stuff like coming to my feed. And there are an awful lot of people on there who are just like, well, this is just reality because everybody's awful. And I'm like, look, there's like a lot of people who are like apathetic or mediocre. There's a small number of people who are actually awful. There's a very, very, very small number of people who are like evil and like really, really bad. The vast majority of people are on the like neutral to pretty good, like okay to pretty good territory. Like there's a bell curve. There's a bell curve here. Like most people are totally fine. Some people not great. A lot of people pretty good actually. And I always say too, like what's fascinating to me about that worldview is like, the world would look very, very different than it actually does if most people were like bad, right? Like if most people were thieves and murderers and violent criminals and all of that kind of stuff, like we would live in a very, very different world. You could not live in a society at all. It would be like Mad Max nonstop all the time. You'd have to carry guns everywhere because somebody was going to rob you every second of your life. Like it's just nothing like that happens for real people. Like you pretty much go about your day having normal interactions with other human beings who don't generally wish you any harm. And yet, like, I meet people a lot who are like, oh no, the world is full of evil people. And I'm like, is it though? Is it really evil people? Yeah. Like it's sometimes full of people who don't care about you because they don't know you, but I've traveled all over the world, and I've found one thing very, very consistently is it's actually like been really, really reinforcing a general sense of optimism that I have about people. Like international travel is great because like everywhere you go, people are pretty nice. Like they want to show you cool stuff. They want to make sure that you have a good time. They want to make sure that their city that you're experiencing for the first time is like giving you a good experience so that you go away like feeling good about the city and good about the culture. They pretty typically like willing to share. I don't know. It's super weird. I'm reading all these comments now and everybody's like, the world is terrible. It's all pain everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. It feels like it goes hand in hand with a lot of people's initial reaction of just saying that we live in a terrible time. We talked about this on the pod at length previously about this weird need for people to just really hate everything.
Yeah.
About 2022. And like, for real, we've had some really bad stuff, especially from governments the last couple of years, but all in all,
it's still a pretty good time.
The time we live in, like, it's crazy. It really is hard for me to take people serious when they say we live in a dystopia, people are evil. It's just, what world are you living in? It just seems like it's like willful ignorance almost, because it's just not what I have ever experienced at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I mean, even now, I mean, like you look at some of the things that people in power are doing. We talk about Trudeau in Canada and the stuff that's going on there, but like, the vast majority of people aren't doing that. And the vast majority of people you like actually meet on a day-to-day basis are like really not there. Now, I do worry that a lot of people just sort of reflexively support some of that kind of stuff, or they're just like inactive, like they don't care enough to pay attention to some of those things. But I mean, that's also very different from being like actively, a thief or a violent criminal or whatever. I don't know. It just seems it's very depressing worldview.